What are my legal rights if I am injured at work? That's our topic on this episode of Main Street Law. My guest is North Carolina personal injury attorney Michael A. DeMeo of the law offices of Michael A. DeMeo. So Michael, thanks for being here.
My pleasure as always, Cindy.
Well, Michael, what are my legal rights if I'm injured at work?
Generally, if someone is injured at work, they have rights to what's called compensation or workers' compensation. Generally, what that entails is they are entitled to get their medical bills paid, and if they're out for more than 7 days, they're entitled to get 2/3 their salary, capped to a maximum amount as far as benefits. As a general rule, if the injury is one where where they will resolve their treatment and their injury will resolve, and there's not going to be any level of permanency or future lost earnings, that's something that generally is concluded there and oftentimes does not need an attorney. If, on the other hand, there's any kind of permanency, serious injury, toxic exposure, repetitive motion exposure like carpal tunnel, where there's any kind of surgery or any kind of potential future or present diminution in wages, then it is usually very, very, very important that someone hire an experienced workers' compensation attorney to help them recover. Because not only are they entitled to the medical bills and 2/3 salary, but oftentimes they're entitled to either a series of payments or a lump sum payment, which is usually concluded in a settlement, which is also called a clincher.
Okay. Well, Michael, walk us through the steps. If someone is injured, what is the first step?
Sure. The first step is you have to report an on-the-job injury as soon as possible. Generally, the same day is recommended, but 30 days usually is kind of the litmus test. It is the responsibility of the employer to then file what's called a Form 18, which starts the claim, essentially. It opens a workers' compensation claim. There is a 2-year statute of limitations on workers' comp claim, so if the employer refuses, which is illegal, or is not able for some strange reason to assist in that, then certainly, for example, our firm could help in filing a Form 18. As a general rule, you report the accident and obviously secondarily get care or treatment. Oftentimes, the employer or their insurance company will dictate and delegate where the person is to go for treatment. That is one of the things as workers' comp that you have to kind of abide by. Workers' comp is no fault, so it doesn't matter if it was your fault or it wasn't your fault, you're still covered as long as you were on the job at the time of the accident. So it's important that you report it and get treatment. From there, depending on the severity of the injury, then oftentimes it is important to seek legal representation from an experienced workers' compensation attorney.
Michael, tell us about the requirements in obtaining medical care. Do you have to go to a company-assigned doctor, or can you go to your own doctor?
You generally have to abide by, under the workers' compensation scheme, you do have to go to the doctors that the workers' compensation carrier refers you to. When we get involved, for example, though, oftentimes we can send the client to what's called a second opinion if maybe our doctors disagree with the insurance company doctors. Someone has to remember that the doctors that are used by the workers' compensation insurance carriers are generally ones that are more favorable towards the insurance company and the employer. So their job is to get the person back to work as soon as possible. Obviously, in a perfect world, you'd want an unbiased doctor who would not basically take into account who's paying their bill, but that's not the world we live in. So as a practical matter, yes, you do have to abide by and go to the doctors they refer and recommend, but with an experienced workers' compensation attorney, oftentimes we can recommend different doctors and certainly get a second opinion if there's any questions about either the level of injury or the necessity of surgery or any future medical needs.
Okay, now what if the company doctor orders me back to work and I don't feel ready? Do I have any recourse?
Again, generally you do have to go back to work. Again, if you have an experienced workers' comp attorney, a lot of times we are able to get a second opinion where the second opinion says, hey, this person can't return back to work, and then it is legitimate to stay out. It is not appropriate for the person to decide of their own volition that they are not going to go back to work regardless of what the doctor says. If they do that, yes, they will cut off their benefits and they're in for a decent fight. So you have to work within the rules and the regulations, because workers' comp is regulated by the Industrial Commission and it's an administrative remedy. But that being said, there are some ways to work within the system that we can utilize to benefit the client or the injured person.
Very good. Well, it sounds like a complicated area of the law.
Yes, workers' compensation is a very, very, very detailed, sophisticated area of the law, and you should never, in my opinion, if you have any type of serious injury, use anyone other than a workers' compensation attorney who only does that type of work. In our office, we have 3 workers' compensation attorneys, 2 that are certified workers' compensation specialists by the North Carolina State Bar, which says they meet an even higher standard of regulations, and they have taken an exam to show their level of expertise in that particular area. But yes, generally, there is no reason why anyone should not get an experienced workers' comp attorney, especially if you have a severe injury on the job.
Well, Michael, if someone has specific questions, how can they reach you?
They can certainly always call us 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, anywhere in the United States at 1-877-333-1000. That's a very easy number to remember. Or someone would feel more comfortable researching our firm and finding out about our knowledge, experience, and expertise and our track record, they can certainly go to our website at www.demayolaw, that's DEMAYOLAW.com, and they certainly can get information. They can do what's called an online inquiry. We even have someone that will come on while they're on the web, and we'll ask them if they can help them. It's called a web chat. So we have a number of different ways where clients can either communicate, contact us, or at least check us out before they decide to hire us.
Excellent. Well, Michael, thank you so much for your time today.
My pleasure.
This is Cindy Speaker for State Law TV.